Hello, I am LJ Notorian, 20 years of age, third year student of BS Maria Alpha in Palampon Institute of Technology. Today, we explore one of the school of thoughts in understanding human composition, the dichotomy approach. In this perspective, rooted in philosophy, religion, science, it divides human existence into two essential contrasting components such as the body and soul. So let us examine how this approach operates or why it continues to shape our understanding of what it means to be human. So, what is dichotomy approach? The term dichotomy refers to the division in two mutually exclusive and often opposing parts. So, in the dichotomy approach, in human composition, view human beings as composed of two fundamental aspects, which is the physical or the body, which is represents the tangible parts of us, like senses, the biological functions, the brain. So, and the second aspect is the physical or the non-physical, which refers to the intangible, which is our mind, our consciousness, spirit, or which refers to our soul. So, in this approach, we emphasize the two elements. While distinct, they are interconnected and essential for understanding human nature. So, how does dichotomy approach operate? Let's us break this down into three key into three functions on how it defines us. So, in the first function, the clarification of human by nature. So, by dividing the human being into two parts, the dichotomy approach simplifies our understanding of complex humans of and its experience. For example, if we consider the body as the vessel that allows us to interact with the physical world, so meanwhile the soul or our mind provides the deeper reflective qualities like emotions, thoughts, and a sense of purpose. And in the second function, the interdependence of the two parts. So these two separate the body and the soul or our mind are deeply interconnected. So, when a physical injury can affect the mind, it causes stress or depression. So, conversely, the mental well being can directly influence the physical health and such reducing the risk of disease through stress management. So, this interplay demonstrate that neither parts functions independently of the other. So, in the third function, in application across discipline, dichotomy approach is applied in various fields. So in philosophy, we distinguish between the mortal body and the immortal soul, asserting that the soul seeks truth beyond the physical existence. So in religion, many faiths emphasize the duality of the mortal body and the eternal spirit, guiding the moral and ethical conduct. Also, in medicine or in psychology, the mind body connection is a cornerstone for understanding holistic health and therapy. Examples of dichotomy in action is like imagine a student preparing for an exam. The body may feel oh, the body may feel tired and crave for sleep, but the mind motivates persistence, driven by the goal of the success. Then another example is that think of a person meditating. Their physical self remains still, but their spiritual or their soul seeks peace and meaning. The balance contribute well to the over this balance contribute well to the overall well-being of the human. So, why is this approach relevant? The dichotomy approach remains significant because it helps us to navigate life's challenges. By understanding that humans are both physical and non-physical beings, we can address our needs holistically. It encourages us to nurture not only our bodies through exercise and nutrition, but also our mind and soul through learning, relationships, and introspection. So, in summary, the dichotomy approach operates by dividing the human nature into essential parts, which is the physical and the soul. So, this division clarifies that our existence highlights the interplay between the body and the soul, and it provides a framework for understanding ourselves and others. So, as we continue to explore this duality, we strive to achieve the balance, these aspects of our being. So, recognizing that true fulfillment comes when both physical and the soul parts of our us or our health is in our harmony. Today, we confront a critical question: can a harmonious and orderly society can be achieved through moral relativism? So, moral relativism is the idea that right and wrong are subjective and vary depending on culture, society, and individual preferences. It may sound appealing in its promotion of tolerance and freedom, but however, I stand before you to argue that the society founded on moral relativism cannot achieve through harmony and order. Let us examine why this is so. So, it moral relativism can erode the shared values. For example, harmony and order require a foundation of shared values that bind individuals together. Moral relativism, by its nature, denies the existence of universal principle. Instead of its champion the notion that morality is subjective and context dependent. While this might encourage tolerance in theory, in practice, it leads to division in conflict. If every individual or culture determines their own morality, whose values take precedence when disagreements arise, imagine a society where theft is seen as acceptable by one group but condemned by another. Without a shared standard, there is no way to mediate this conflict. So, relativism creates a fragmented society where moral disagreements becoming irreconcilable, eroding trust and cooperation. So, moral relativism breeds injustice. Moral relativism also undermines justice. If there is no universal standard for right and wrong, how do we condemn actions that are objectively harmful, such as oppression, exploitation, or violence? Consider the issue of human rights. If morality is relative, what grounds do we have to oppose practices like slavery, child labor, or gender based discrimination in societies where these are considered acceptable? By allowing every culture or individual to define their own morality, relativism turns a blind eye to suffering and permits injustice to persist under the guise of cultural norms. True justice demands universal principle, standards that transcends culture and individual differences. Without these, fairness and equality become impossible to achieve. The danger of ethical anarchy is because of the uh, moral relativism. A society based on moral relativism risks descending into ethical anarchy. If everyone operates by their own moral code, what stops individual or group from justifying harmful actions? Consider a company polluting the environment, arguing that their culture prioritizes profit over sustainability. Without universal standards, how do we hold them accountable? So, relativism removes the moral guardrails that prevent chaos. Order is not possible in a society where every moral claim is equally valid, regardless of its consequences. So now, the necessity of universal moral principle. So to achieve harmony and order, societies need a baseline of universal principles, values like respect, fairness, and compassion that transcends cultural boundaries. These principles provide a common framework for resolving conflict and ensuring justice. They create a sense of unity and shared purpose, which is essential for societal stability. So, relativism rejects this idea, leaving societies rudderless in a sea of conflicting moral claims. History has shown us time and again these societies thrive when they uphold shared values, not when they embrace moral ambiguity. So, if we conclude, or in conclusion, the moral relativism may promise freedom and tolerance, but delivers division, injustice, and disorder. A harmonious and orderly society cannot be built on foundation that denies universal truths. Instead, we must embrace the principle that unite us as human beings, principle that affirm our share for humanity, and it guides towards the justice and peace. And also, harmony is not born of moral relativism. It is born of moral clarity. Let us strive to uphold it. And also, um, applying the moral principle that two opposing statements cannot be true at the same time. Both of them could be wrong, but it is impossible for them to be right. So that we need a standard, or we need we don't need relativism, or we may need it, but not in creating a harmony in order in a society.